And now, session number 4. Work-based professional training makes competitive and resilient SMEs. So I'd like to welcome on stage the moderator of this session, Stefan Moritz, Managing Director for European Entrepreneurs. Welcome. Stefan.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to stay with us. You're not yet tired. That is good because session 4 goes about professional training. The session before us was, of course, a session regarding the cooperation, the agreements among European and the African SME associations like PACCI, Pan-African Chamber of Commerce, as well as our Confederation European Entrepreneurs, represented by our president, Maurizio Casasco, and also representing CONFAPI. The session before also was this session regarding entrepreneurship. You see, we are trying to spell out the cornerstones of an SME agenda. We are looking forward to February 2022, when the European Union and the African Union will meet together and discuss not only in a business forum on how we can support together and improve our cooperation, but also the day after the political summit of all 81 states of the European Union and the African Union will meet and discuss how they can improve politically. We think that a good cooperation and a resilient competitive development of the economy relies very much on SMEs, and the SMEs need a special agenda. And the special agenda is entrepreneurship, to strengthen the training, but also the role of entrepreneurs in the society, professional training, especially work-based learning, and also, of course, financial opportunities that are necessary, exactly tailor-made for small, medium-sized enterprises. And finally, the cooperation, which we are trying to support as Confederation European Entrepreneurs, CEA-PME, together with our partners, also with EASMES, BVMW, CONFAPI, and PACCI. Thank you very much for the attention, and I would like to introduce now our speakers, which are all connected from remote. So only Valentina, thank you very much for being with me here, and me are on the stage. We have connected from remote Mrs. Raffaella Sadun, Professor for Business Administration at the Strategy Unit of the Harvard Business School in the United States, together with the lead economist of the Development Research Group at the World Bank, Mr. David McKenzie. Then connected from Dakar, also Mr. Stefan Kunz, the Program Manager of GIZ, the German Cooperation Agency, responsible for the program Special Initiatives on Training and Job Creation, Invest for Jobs, financed by the German government. Then connected from Kenya, Mrs. Linda Onyango, the CEO of the SME Support Center, as well as connected from Nigeria, Mrs. Blessing Ebereachu, the director and founder of the 360 Creative Innovation Hub. Thank you very much. And finally, last but not least, Mr. Constantino Chessa, the head of procurement of Eni, the Italian energy company. Welcome, everybody. I see you are behind me. I would like to start immediately with Professor Raffaella Sadun. From the point of the theory regarding professional training, how important would you say is work-based learning for workers, employees, but especially also for entrepreneurs themselves?
Hi there, and warm regards to everybody. I'd love to be with you. We have to do it online, hopefully next time in person. So answering to your question, I think it's extremely important. And the reason why I have this strong belief is rooted in the research that I've been doing for the past 15 years, which demonstrates the importance of basic managerial skills for firm growth and firm performance. We've done research based on 20,000 managers around 35 countries. And what we find through our data is that systematically companies that are better managed and adopt these basic managerial practices not only are more profitable, but they also grow faster, they survive more. So I would say we know that management and basic managerial skills really matter. On the other hand, we also know, and this is perhaps the darker side of the picture, that there are very large differences in the adoption of basic managerial practices across organizations. And I would say that this is a great opportunity, especially for SMEs and especially for SMEs in developing countries. It's important to understand that these differences are there and they're quite persistent. Just quite a bit ago. In part, these are informational gaps. The entrepreneurs themselves don't know how much they could benefit from the adoption of these practices. In part, and this is where the training really becomes crucial, it's a lack of basic training, both at the entrepreneurial level, perhaps people that have an amazing initiative, intuition, but may lack the basic understanding of how to scale and how to grow an organization. I am biased because I teach in a business school, but these are skills that you need to somehow at least be aware of and understand and learn from colleagues or from training programs. But it is also, I think, a central issue that it's also confirmed in our research. It's not just enough to train the entrepreneur. It's also really important to bring the workforce with the entrepreneur. The improvement of an organization does not happen because somebody from the top orders or bullies around the workers. It comes because the workers understand what needs to be done. They have the tools and they have the ability to really be part of a growth journey. So I would say, to me, this is a central area for intervention. It's something that needs to come from the entrepreneur themselves. Sometimes it's an issue of changing mentality and changing mindset. You might not want to, you might not continue to manage by working around. You might need to delegate and find other people that come with you. But I think it's also something that requires very systematic, proactive, and high quality investment. And I will conclude here because I think that this is a central issue. There are many different opportunities for training. It's almost too many. I think that there is an issue of really focusing and narrowing the efforts on training programs that can be evaluated and that are high quality and that deliver results. It's a little bit of a Far West, and my colleague David McKenzie might talk about some of the initiatives that he's been involved in that really have this evaluation piece at center. And I will just conclude with one word. The reason why I'm here today, it's because I really do believe that a lot of this, of what I've been discussing, this journey towards improvement, adoption of management practices, training, runs through entrepreneurial associations. There is only so much you can do from a classroom setting. There is only so much you can do in a university. I live it constantly through my students. Improvement, both the motivation and the standard and the core knowledge comes from the networks of entrepreneurs working together, being convinced that this is the way to go, transmitting knowledge that, frankly, academics have not yet codified. I learn a ton from my students, and my students learn from themselves. What we're doing today and what entrepreneurial networks like this one can do is really crucial to this journey. And I'd love to hear. I'll stop here, and I'm very interested in hearing what my colleagues will say too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Sadun. So if I got you right, at least the point that I was looking for is that work-based professional training, which regards, of course, also the entrepreneurs, is also the chance to instill to the workforce the entrepreneurial spirit. That means to share the responsibility, to take over the responsibility for a successful company. Is that also what you can confirm, Professor David McKenzie of the World Bank Development Research Group?
Hi, so it's great to be here. So what I would like to say is first, Rafaela's work and so much of this other work has really shown the importance of this professionalization and of training. But, when it comes to practice and we're trying to help firms improve it, one of the big frustrations is how so many well-intended ideas really don't work out as well as we would like. And so I think, that is one of the big challenges. There's no shortage of companies coming out there offering to help firms improve. There's no shortage of sort of training facilities out there. And it's often really hard to tell, who's good and who's bad, or is this going to work for my firm? And so I'd like to give a couple of concrete examples from some of the work we've done. So, one example was in Nigeria, where we were working. There was a government program that was going to try and train entrepreneurs in marketing and accounting skills. And we said, one of the key challenges is that entrepreneurs really have a lot of other things that they're trying to do at the same time. So maybe they would be better going to the market and trying to hire those skills. And so this is one of the questions and we found that, working on that whole market for professional business services with HR providers, marketing and accounting firms, it was actually much more efficient in those cases for you to go to the market and hire those skills than to try and learn them as an entrepreneur. So I think, we need to think about which types of skills we should actually go to the market for versus train our existing workforce for. The second thing that's come up a lot is that it's not just these hard skills that matter, it's a lot of soft skills as well that are really crucial for entrepreneurship. And so in particular, this what we see is a lot of cookie cutter firms trying to just do the same thing as everybody else. Each day looks pretty much the same as the day before it. And so one of the things that we tried in Togo was to work with psychologists and bring in this idea of personal initiative, of really trying to teach a mindset of being proactive, of trying to look for continuous improvement. So we've seen this sort of in large firms through the production side of continuous management, the Toyota way, but we also need this on the sort of entrepreneurial side of, what can I do so that tomorrow doesn't look exactly the same as today, so that I can really try and, keep looking for those new opportunities, be resilient, and if something doesn't work, have a plan B. And so we tested that against a traditional type of training program, and it had 3 times the effect. Sort of profits went up 30% for firms that went through this personal initiative training compared to 10% for firms that went through a traditional training. So, it's not just these hard skills that matter, it's some of these soft skills.
Great.
The third example that I'd like to give is one that I think, speaks for the roles of these associations, which is that, as Rafaela said, it's one thing for outside experts to come in, but it's often hard for firms to know, does this really apply to my industry? Can I really trust this outsider? And so, firms can learn quite well from talking with others in their industry. And so in Colombia, we tried, going in with consultants and giving individual consulting. And then we tried a group-based approach where we got firms in the auto parts sector. These were SMEs, 50-worker firms. And we would take the production line managers from each of these sort of group of firms, bring them together, have them talk about how they're trying to improve, and then they would come back and share those experiences with one another. And we found this sort of group-based consulting, not only was it cheaper, but it was more effective and had lasting effects on firm growth than the sort of one-on-one approach. And so this is, I think, a key place where associations can help in sharing those experiences across firms and helping diffuse those practices and helping build that trust that's needed of, this is not just some outsider telling me, this is somebody in my industry that says this really works. This was helping my firm.
Yeah.
And so, the final point here, I think, we talked about workplace training. I think Africa obviously has this large tradition of apprenticeships, of sort of inbuilt training. One of the key constraints is that a lot of those skills are very sort of specific to the firm, and there's this tendency to underinvest in general skills. There's this fear that if I sort of teach people too many things, they might leave my firm. And so, we need to think about sort of ways to certify those skills and to encourage firms to also invest in those general skills. And so, my final message is one that I think echoes Rafaela's, which is I think this is an exciting space. There's lots of opportunities here, but there's also lots of well-founded things that we do that don't work. And so just as we sort of really emphasize continuous improvement, test and learn for firms, we need to do that with our own programs as well. We need to experiment. We need to, systematically analyze what's working and what's not working. And so we can keep, trying to improve just as we try and tell entrepreneurs that this is what they should be doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor McKenzie, for this intervention. That shows also to me that, as you said, we have to experiment, we have to adapt fastly to the requirements of the market. Indeed, let's say work-based learning, apprenticeships, or continuous training on the job is exactly that. You don't need to make long analysis of the needs. You directly go into the transform in the, let's say, in the beta version, trying to implement a new service, a new activity, a new production line. And as you made referred before to your experience with the project that you analyzed in Nigeria, I would now ask our colleague, Mrs. Blessing Ebere Achu, the director and founder of 360 Creative Innovation Hub from Lagos, Nigeria, to tell me, in the last period, we had COVID, no? You told me that you had very much activity around the training and of entrepreneurs and their workers. First of all, I think training is also always an investment. Were your companies ready to pay for it, and what kind of training they were asking now exactly in this period?
Okay, currently, because of COVID, a lot of changes has happened in the fashion industry, and we've been able to train designers on two aspects. So we have the free training, which is online, and train them on how to use soft skills to better their business. But for more in-depth training, we use the classroom section where we train designers on how to use communication like Instagram, Facebook, and social media to create engaging content for their brands. And as part of selling online and capturing the market for them to grow their business, we've been able to teach using their phone as a digital photography equipment. So they have to save money, do photography in their house, upload on Instagram, put pricing, and be able to understand the language their target audience wants to hear, and sell to those audience. So these are the training that we do. We have, for those that want to do in-depth brand marketing training, we train them. This is a paid service in the hub. For free training, how to create a Facebook page for your business, how to use Instagram for your business, how to use WhatsApp business for your fashion business, how to create all those things. We do that free of charge and online. So, and it's cut across everybody in the creative sector: bag, shoe, jewelry, stuff like that. But for those that are wanting to understand, that want to sell to the global market, that want to understand what it is to speak a certain brand language and be able to identify with a category of people, a niche in their business. So we take them hands-on, in-class training, paid services that they can use to grow and build scalable and sustainable businesses.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Mrs. Achu. That is confirming me that, let's say, SMEs are very resilient in this sense that they react fastly to the needs of the market, fastly to the conditions, to the new situations of maybe a pandemic or a crisis on the market, and they even invest on their own training, especially also in fields like fashion apparel that are your, let's say, clients to which you are referring. So let's go now to Dakar, to Mr. Stefan Kunz, the program manager of the GIZ Special Initiative on Training and Job Creation. a program financed by the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation called Invest for Jobs. In your activity, Mr. Kunz, professional training is of course central. You are here supporting maybe investments from abroad in Africa. Which gap, for instance, in Senegal are your projects closing? Which challenges do you face?
Thanks for the invitation, sharing our micro perspective in Care Saluti di Dakar. Bonjour à tous. I think it's very much necessary to underline that there is no remedy for the program or for the problem we are actually discussing. I mean, we even have to distinguish what kind of structure we have with regard to enterprises. We talk about small enterprises and medium-sized enterprises. Considering the situation here in Senegal, we have to see that we have 200,000 young people joining the labor market every year. Unfortunately, we are not yet in the situation to absorb all these people. Meaning to say, the government of Senegal is very much demand-driven to create a system which can really train people in a sustainable way. So the question is, being a product of the German dual system, I'm a carpenter in my first life, so I can access a little bit also the technical issue. It's very much important to understand that we have to see in which area we are going to provide which program. So I'm not really somebody who wants to support the dual system or the Australian vocational training system. I think if we want to close the gap for enterprises, particularly for medium-sized enterprises which have a different leverage on the labor market, it's very much important to see what are their needs. Technology is running fast. If we see the curriculum which are actually already on the market or which are being developed for the new market, we see that there is a difference because technology is mostly much faster than what we do on the academic part. That means we really have to integrate more closely, particularly here in Senegal, the enterprises being a part, an active part of developing a system which we can call really vocational training system. That's actually what we do. So particularly in collaboration with CNP, which is an association here in Senegal, which I've already introduced, I guess, today, and also the German Association for Medium-Sized Enterprises, we have started to run, as Gia said, various programs in different sectors, always following the same approach, asking the entrepreneurs, what is your need? Going directly to the enterprise, seeing the causality between existing technology, what kind of technology is needed in order to improve the quality. And this we are doing not only with German companies, as you might assume, we are doing it with European companies, but particularly always in a kind of joint venture process with Senegal companies. So we have various sectors we are working in.
May I ask you?
That means,
may I ask you this? This program, is it open only to German companies or to all European companies?
Already answered, because I said European companies. So we are waiting for the friends from Italy to join because, I mean, we are a member of European Union, if I'm not mistaken, and that is the reason why we are working already with Austrian companies. We have first Italian companies from the textile sector and so on.
Great.
So even Spanish companies are joining our program. So it's not isolated only to German companies.
Wonderful, very good. Thank you very much. Now let's go to the other side of the continent, to Eastern Africa, to Kenya, to Mrs. Linda Onyango from the SME Support Center, Kenya. You state that your support center has given transaction advisory for more than $2 million in the last 3 years and assisted over 1,000 SMEs in many fields, of course also in training and human resources advisory. What approach is better for Kenyan SMEs? School or university trained staff, or work-based learning with apprenticeship, continuous training on the job, and so on? What would you say?
I think for SMEs, what you find is that a lot of SMEs already have some sort of educational experience. And what's happening right now is that the demographics of the SME is actually really changing. So you find a lot of the SMEs, we look at the profiles of the SMEs who really come for the support or the capacity building. The profiles are young, but people who've gone to universities, degrees, masters, and etc. So what you find is that they're venturing out to entrepreneurship because perhaps there's no more formal employment. So what is very much needed is the professional training, the work-based one. And at the center, we truly, based on our vision, which is just to scale them up, quality business and investment advisory. That is really what we do. And we see how this has actually enabled these SMEs to be competitive and resilient. So I'll give an example. So when COVID hit, that was in around March, yes, COVID hit in March. So we partnered with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and in this initiative funded by the MasterCard Foundation, we've been so far able to have 35 training sessions covering marketing, sales, productivity, leadership. I heard someone talk about the soft skills, which are extremely important. That's true. With business planning and the rest, business continuity, all this we have been able to provide, and we've been able to see how during this time, this capacity building has been very key in terms of actually really making the SMEs resilient. Now, when it comes to the other aspect of training, because it's not just training, there's training, there's also what we call mentorship, and there's also what we call coaching, right? And mentorship, where we bring business leaders who are actually experienced or who've gone ahead of time, business gurus, also plays an important part. I mean, bringing people who have gone ahead of the SMEs who are trying to grow plays an important part in terms of helping them chart where they really want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. So that becomes very, very key as well. So I had someone also speak about the peer-to-peer mentorship. So peer-to-pear mentorship becomes very, very key because they learn from their peers. You learn the challenges you're facing. If it's accounting, how are you navigating it? Which systems are you using? And so forth. So I think we have to break down training and not just classify it as training. There's the mentorship, there's coaching. We have an access to finance coaching program. And in this coaching, we impact skills and also ensure the deliverables are done. So there's the financial projections, business plans, pitch decks, and etc. When it comes to investment facilitation, that becomes very key. Obviously, the investment activity for non-tech businesses in the continent from private sector lenders is still minimal, is still low. You can't compare it with the VC activity. The VC activity this year has actually been about 2 times what it was last year, but we are seeing a lot more effort needed on the private sector side, private lending side for non-traditional, for traditional SME, medium growth SMEs. And a lot of what we do at the center, we have deal rooms. We have deal rooms where we facilitate investments, those that we have prepared or those SMEs that have gone through our programs. We have deal rooms where we bring private investors and we look at transactions. Typically, any transaction that goes through our deal room must have revenue size not less than $50,000. So there's a lot of activity we are doing around capital raising support. We work with a lot of private lenders and we pretty much interest the SMEs in our portfolio. And we work with private sector associations, like I mentioned, KEPSA, which is the largest private sector association in East Africa, in my opinion. So there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of work, but I think I must say there's a lot of free training. And so we, from institutions or donors and etc., where I have seen training really works, the SMEs must be vested, right? So I think as we design more programs, we need to get the SMEs very much vested. They need to put in some little investment, whether it's a co-investment in terms of money. Yep. They become more engaged and etc. So we've done that with the GIZ. We have a robust acceleration program. And in that program, they have to invest. They have to make some co-investment in order to benefit. So I think in terms of structure and where we are going forward, is a lot more personalized consulting. We've done a lot of trainings, COVID period. Donors have sponsored a lot of trainings. I think that has already been done. I mean, the plenary trainings and etc. I think customized business advisory, where then you actually, maybe for some of them, support them to actually do the business plans and all, and look at their productivity and etc. We need to structure them in a way that the SMEs actually put in something.
Very good.
But
Mrs. Onyango, that is, it seems like a list of good practices that we could also transfer to our business organizations here in Europe. I would say, because in truth, what you are spelling out, what you are listing is a series of activities which are extremely important to raise competitiveness of our companies. You mentioned peer learning, you mentioned coaching. I would also like to ask Professor Sadun, Mrs. Onyango was talking about skilling up is also scaling up in a certain way, and that in the era of digitalization is getting more and more crucial and necessary to be done fastly. But which strategies could adopt SMEs to focus on the right professional training in order to improve their performance?
I think this is an excellent question, and to some extent, the prior speakers identified that it's really important to start from the company's needs. I don't believe in a cookie cutter approach where you just expose, there is value in generic training for sure, to some extent. But I think at the end of the day, if you want to have that commitment, if you want to have people to really be involved, you need to have something that matches the needs of the entrepreneur at that point in time. So I would say, going back to what David McKenzie said, there are two ways here. Once you identify the need, a very immediate step that you might think about is also to just open up your mind to the fact that some of the skills that you need might be already available in the market. To me, already recognizing what you need and the fact that you might plug this expertise back into your company very quickly, that is a starting point. You go from using an external skill, but by doing that, you might also learn. And so I would say, first of all, my sense is that you need to have some sort of ability to evaluate objectively where you are, what you need, and potentially go to the market to get those skills. And then we can think about the longer term process of specific type of training. I would insist on one part, which I think Linda just mentioned. It's really, really important here that the SMEs have skin in the game. This is not something that you can do in a perfunctory way, just signing up, checking the box. That's why I believe in programs that require a certain amount of commitment, if not a financial commitment, but it has a commitment in terms of time and attention, because that's the point in which the mindset starts to shift. So I would start from this: information, ability to evaluate opportunities that might exist in the market, but even more important, programs that require strong commitment from the organizations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. Mr. David McKenzie, in this sense, we want to set up a little bit a center of excellence for work-based learning in Europe. That is a plan of our Confederation, European Entrepreneurs, and we want to do that together with our members and partners, Confapi, BMW, and others. What would you advise us to look at? Because you said you have to experiment, you have to check out what works. Exactly, that is also my approach. I don't think there is only one size fits all. But anyway, let's say, what are the points we should mainly look at? What are the cornerstones that you would advise us to take into account in our plans for a work-based learning excellence center?
Thanks. So I think one of the key elements as a starting point is just trying to be able to measure what excellence looks like and being able to benchmark it. And so often, a lot of donors, a lot of organizations, including my own, have this pressure to sort of say, look, we've helped this many firms. These are the numbers that we've trained. But, going beyond that, just to sort of think about, what are those skills that we really want to be teaching? Are we getting to those levels? And then we can, test different programs and measure their impacts on improving those things. And so, Rafaela and her colleagues have developed at the organization level a lot of sort of basic measures of management practices that you can use to benchmark across, with firms across the world. I think, we have that for smaller firms. We don't have that systematicized as much for workplace training of workers. And I think sort of, for different industries, this is something where, that becomes useful both for the worker side. It's much more interesting for me to take part in training if I know that what I get is something that I can also use in other firms. And it becomes useful from your organizational side of, okay, I know, that we're getting firms up to this level, to this category. And so I think measurement is sort of a first key there. Yep. And then I think, we had this comment about sort of the importance of getting the SMEs involved in we've seen this with vocational training, that demand-based training where it's really, meeting the needs of the organization rather than this top-down approach of, we sit here and we think we know what are the kind of key things is important. So let me stop there because I know we want to hear from lots of people.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. McKenzie. I would you were talking about to think about what excellence means. I think today excellence regards also the environmental performance and the social responsibility of the companies. Indeed, for this we were not only talking about peer learning before, but most probably also more and more about, we are talking also more and more about online training and self-regulated training. In this sense, here's a very interesting pilot project, or let's say maybe not only pilot project, really a large project intended by ENI and Mr. Constantino Kessa, the head of procurement. Would you like to illustrate to us a little bit your platform proposal for training in the field of environmental performance, ecological footprint, and social responsibility?
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's great to be with you today. So it's an opportunity to talk from a different perspective about a topic that is key for an energy company like Eni with an historical presence in Africa. So Africa is part of our roots and is the continent where we took first steps outside Italy in 1954, and today we operate in 14 African countries, and we have a supplier base that is composed by more than 1,600 African companies. For all this reason, we are very sensitive to the issue of competitiveness and resilience of SMEs, because in fact they are the backbone of our supply chain. As you know, Eni's space is leading a just energy transition, promoting an efficient and sustainable access to energy for all. And for this reason, we decided to involve also our supply chain in this challenge, asking them to support us improving their ESG performance, because we think that this aspect is and will be more and more a competitiveness level also for African SMEs. And we expect they will play their role in this energy industry transformation, and also as an opportunity to grow their competencies. We launched a program to involve our supplier base that is called JUST. That means Join Us in a Sustainable Transition. And within this program, in March 2021, we launched a digital platform called Openness. That is a platform open to all suppliers, not only to any suppliers, and designed together with our SMEs. Is a concrete tool to support all the companies in the development of the different aspects of sustainability, social, environmental, governance, economic sustainability, and it's a free platform able to support every company to measure their own sustainability performance, compare their performance with industry benchmark, in order to acquire awareness on their own strengths and areas of weaknesses, and also to bridge the gaps thanks to the services available on the platform itself. Today, we have 2,800 companies from 53 different countries that join the openness community. And looking at the aggregate data collected in the platform, we can also understand which improvements are needed in the different areas of sustainability: people, planet, prosperity, governance. And it emerged that training represents, especially for SMEs, an important point of attention. And in particular, companies are showing important training needs about UN Sustainable Development Goals implementation and business strategy, circular economy models, energy efficiency, carbon footprint measurement and tools, or product life cycle assessment. And I think these are important areas where we need to concentrate also the training of our people, because we can allow them to grow in capabilities, in skills, and to support the company to be more and more competitive. So in particular, we think that leveraging on these synergies between technology, sustainability, and also training, SMEs can take this transformation, have an opportunity to increase their resiliency and competitiveness.
Thank you very much. So that means thanks to the benchmark, to the self-performance check, and then also these proposals and offers that your platform makes available in terms of training for companies. They might improve their environmental performance, they might improve their social responsibility, they might improve their ecological footprint, and they might also, in this sense, become more interesting for global supply chains. And I think that is a great chance for the SMEs, and thank you to ENI to making available this platform. ENI is our sponsor also today, of course, but I think that is really a valuable example to show how big and small companies can work together. I would like to now come back to my colleague Linda Onyango. I would like to ask you one single, very short question. What would you say is the most needed aspect of professional training, soft skills or hard skills?
Definitely soft skills is now much more needed than, if I was to choose between the two, I think soft skills is now much more needed than ever. The quality of entrepreneur has a direct correlation with the results that they actually end up achieving. I have seen it even with when it comes to investments. When you invest in a quality entrepreneur, and by definition for me, that is really someone with the ability to move the goals or the implementation plan from point A to point B in the next 5 years or 3 years. So I think I have seen it's better, I get more results, and it's better to work, the quality of entrepreneur actually achieves a lot more and becomes a key decision-making point, whether it becomes for investments and even results and the impact that you end up achieving. Definitely more soft skills on leadership, definitely more soft skills on resilience, definitely more soft skills on resilience. I'm an entrepreneur and I know how that is very important. So definitely soft skills are what get you going.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
in many words, definitely. Yeah, in many words, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Onyango. Mrs. Ebere-Achu from Nigeria, you are managing a creative innovation hub, but how can you train creativity? I mean, how can you support that? Isn't that more a kind of casual thing? Do you need genius, or is there a way to, let's say, support it?
Yeah, supporting creativity. You can train people to bring more of their creativity to work. You know, the way they think, the way they apply their knowledge, the way they design. You can support them with training and with guidance. But creativity goes beyond just the moment you talk, or the way you think and apply your knowledge has to do with creativity. So in fashion designing and in creative business, we have to go the process of design thinking. You need to train the designer to understand that there's a pattern and ways that you have to do your design. So you have to do design thinking to think about the customer, the end buyer, the person that is wearing these clothes, the person that is spending the money. How is the person, these are the process that creativity helps, their creativity have to come on board in designing a product. So it's a guidance for us. Nigerians and in Nigeria will have a lot of creativity because we are a very creative nation. We have fine things. So its ability to channel their energy, bring those creativity to the right path. That is what we do in the hub. And we do this by using different maybe peer-to-peer learning, collaborative learning, guidance, mentorship, training, and hands-on hand-holding processes and all that. This is how we train creativity in the hub. And apart from, I will say that, so another thing that happens with creativity is that it's a light bulb. It comes once, it comes and you want to guide that person to say, okay, this thing that you've thought about, this is how you bring it to life. So that is how creativity works in the hub. And I mean, that's how we work in the hub.
Yeah, great. Mrs. Eberaccio, I think I have understood more or less what you mean in the sense that I like to cook, and we say the proof of the concept is the eating of the cake. And so most probably in your case, it is the proof of the creativity is the production of the skirt. So you have to do it, you have to test, and you have to experiment, as we said before. Last question, but not least, absolutely, Dr. That want to invest in Africa to do in order to find qualified staff in Africa, or maybe how could you, GIZ, help them concretely?
First of all, it's very much necessary that we talked about soft skills. It's also necessary that we from the European part can develop certain soft skills in order to match the cultural relations here. I mean, it's all about social relation, and I think we also have to consider that we always try to set up ecosystems. And that's, to me, a little bit the cell and the soup, that we can really relate between European companies with Senegalese companies in order to find the right skilled persons. Because alone, even if you're very courageous, it's always an adventure to work in Africa, definitely, and you need a certain kind of patience, but it's very much necessary to relate to the local markets. I mean, that is what we do, and in that context, for instance, we have developed 13 different industrial sectors from different kind of sectors. I mean, primary economy up to IT, so it's a wide range, and we see step by step also with the people who are sitting here that it's quite impossible to relate to each other and to set up a pool of experts. But as I said, it's very much necessary to be initiative, and that is a part of the German government in order to support this kind of training aspect from two ends. First of all, start development of let's say, company-based training activities and match them also in the long and mid-term with government activities. Because we have to consider that particularly in Senegal, we have a young private sector. It's just 20 years old, and we cannot expect that something we have done in Italy or in Europe for the last 80, 100 years, that we can achieve that with a short period of time. It might be possible, we see it, certain jumps are possible in the digital sector. So we have like the BPO sector, but we have also coding and programmers here. But what is necessary that we always distinct which sector we are talking about. And then in this part now, I mean, coming up with oil and gas, and what we see actually that there are a lot of foreign workers, foreign experts. Also, this is a sector which promises a lot of success and business and growth. And then that is the context where we have to train people from the very first beginning on. So, I mean, it's, again, there is no remedy, and it's always nice to have all these political concepts, but we always have to look into the micro level and to see what kind of needs the sector has and what kind of competence and technology we have to bring in.
Thank you very much, Professor Kunz. I thank all my panelists very much for the intervention. I would say, as a conclusion, to wrap it up, SMEs, company owners, small and medium-sized entrepreneurs are a part of the creative class, and entrepreneurship itself, but also the training to become an expert in something, but later on maybe also an entrepreneur, is crucial, combined with financial opportunities, which we will talk about later. It can help to grow and to scale up, but it brings really innovations, and these innovations then should also be protected. And here we are talking about intellectual property, and that is the subject of our next session, which is the session which will be managed by our colleagues of the European Union Intellectual Property Office. Thank you very much.